welcome to 3 Words Radio. This is Liza Brooks, broadcasting from Riverwest Radio in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Today we have 2 very special guests in the studio, Laan and Jim Ito. They have been dedicating their time and efforts to a movement that is sweeping across the nation called Move to Amend. You may have already heard bits and pieces about this movement, but are unfamiliar with the details and how this will affect you. We're going to delve into the topic today, but before we talk about how it started, where it's headed, and how you can get involved, I'd like to welcome my guests, Mary and Jim. Greetings.
Hi.
Hi.
Happy to be here.
Great.
Thanks.
I'm so glad that you came. Now, can either of you give us a brief and broad outline of what Move to Amend is? How did it start, and what brought this all about?
Well, we're a grassroots group of citizens concerned that corporations have more influence on our government than we the people. We hope to influence our legislators through local referenda on a national basis. So we have a national office as well that coordinates our meetings, really. We have meetings with each other. But we are very independent from them, and we can write our own referenda, and we have for Milwaukee County. And we did it for West Dallas, too. But we will ask, in these referenda all over the United States, for a U.S. constitutional amendment stating that corporations are not people and money is not speech. And this is all in response to the Citizens United decision of 2010 in January, when they said that, specifically, that corporations are entitled to constitutional rights. Well, that's really what makes humans human in the Constitution. And sovereign and rulers. So that's wrong. And that money is speech. So that decision opened the floodgates to secret special interest money, making it very clear that the Supreme Court believes that corporations are entitled to the rights of humans. So that's what we represent. And we feel the constitutional amendment is a step we need to take because the other 2 means of reversing the Supreme Court decision are untenable. They are one that our legislators bite the hand that feeds them and decide to write a law, which some of them have, but they're all pretty inadequate. Unfortunately. Yeah, they only deal with campaign finance reform. And the other way is to have the Supreme Court change their mind, which isn't going to happen, I don't think, because they just had a chance with Montana to change some of that. With the Montana had decided that they were exempt from the Citizens United decision because they were uniquely corrupt, and the Supreme Court just decided, no, we're not even going to look at that. The Citizens United covers that.
That's right. I saw that just a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Before we go further into this, let me just ask both of you: how did you get involved with this movement, and why? And maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Are you professional activists, regular citizens? What sparked your efforts and urgency to take action?
Well, I got involved. Mary and I are husband and wife and husband, I should say. And Mary got interested because she attended a meeting, a group called WILF,
Women's International League for Peace and Freedom.
And this was just quite April of 2010. So she got involved, and she volunteered to get involved with another woman, Mary Alice Martinez, and that's how it started. So, being a supportive husband, I got involved.
Yeah. We've never been involved in politics before. We campaigned for Obama door to door, and we did some stuff for the recall, of course. But we had never done any. We had never spearheaded anything, but I just felt like this is at base of a lot of problems. Our environmental problems are a problem because corporations claim corporate personhood, and therefore they require a warrant for OSHA and EPA to come in, for instance. You know, there are a lot of, it's really a core issue. I think it underlies our problem. The lobbying underlies our problem with government right now.
So you reached your breaking point.
Yeah.
So this is what it took, you know, and I think a lot of people are reaching that right now. They're all kind of sitting on the edge. So, in particular, you've been a concerned citizen, but this really, this pushed you forward.
Yeah.
And so you don't consider yourself political activists or, you know.
Well, I guess we are now.
Now, yeah. It turned you into one. Huh?
But, I mean, you know.
Now, in your backgrounds, you know, do you have experience in, you know, prior to, you know, the 2008 election, you know, and just kind of going out there and campaigning, do you have, you know, experience other than, you know, I'm a citizen and I know my rights, and now I think this has crossed the line for me. So prior to that, where were you at?
Well, for me, I'm a retiree from the city of Milwaukee, and I was a traffic engineer. So part of my duties was to interact with the aldermen, council members on various issues, but that was more specific. So I got to be somewhat familiar with working with, you know, politically elected officials, but you know, I never got active in any of the city issues that were coming forward. It was always a reactionary response on my part when something popped up, like a crash in a neighborhood, and you know, someone either got injured or worse, and so I didn't really go and look at what was happening in city government. And no, I don't want this, you know. You know, so I was pretty much a reactivist in that sense, not an activist.
Yeah. So you know, your job, in a sense, gave you some tools, just, you know, interacting, but you know, not so much as a desire to run for political office or get involved politically. So you were able to reach out of, you know, your experience, your life experience.
If anything, I realized that being in elected office is something that I did not want.
I can imagine. But being, you know, a support person who is concerned with, you know, in your situation, traffic. You know, and how to protect. So you still have within you know, a desire to help people.
Yes.
So yeah, that's good. And your background is?
I'm a physician assistant.
Ah, okay. Well, there's another one, helping people. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was my goal always as a PA. But I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, and I really didn't have the energy, emotionally or psychologically or physically, to do much, although I cared a lot about politics, and I think it's very important. And I always cared and paid attention, but didn't actually get out and didn't feel like I could be active. So now I'm retired, and I'm not as busy as I was when I was working, but maybe, you know, maybe 4 or 5 hours a day I can spend on this.
So that's good. That's good, and you're doing this for a good cause, which is even better.
Yes.
I mean, it must be gratifying to some extent that at least, you know, while you're taking, you know, these later years to, you know, not just sit back and relax, but to actually get involved and you know, leave a legacy in a sense. You
Well,
know?
I'm enjoying it a lot. I think Jim is.
I think for the most part, at times it gets frustrating, and you know, looking back, I think, especially in today's economic environment, I mean, people are scrambling just to, you know, put food on the table and you know, take care of their kids, you know, schooling, and you know, God forbid they have to go to college. And you know, when I went to the university many years ago, tuition was $125 a semester. You know, but I think people today are too busy, too exhausted, working, raising a family, to give the time and energy, unfortunately, to you know, what's happening in politics, because it affects their lives.
It does. It really does. Yeah.
And that's why these negative ads work so well and all the advertising works so well, because people don't, I mean, I can really relate to working 60, 70 hours a week and not having the energy to really research things.
Yeah.
And then not, or even the time. I mean, not really having enough time to sleep.
It makes you wonder a little bit about the labor movement, you know, and getting the 8-hour day and the weekends and, you know, the 40-hour week, and how much that has changed, how much of that we've lost. And as we've lost that, we've become so entrenched in just trying to make ends meet that these forces, these outside big corporations, are just getting away with murder.
Right.
You know?
Right on. That's exactly
So
right. It affects our daily lives.
I think a lot of people are you know, they're hovering on the edge. They are reaching their breaking point. This is a good thing. You know, this is citizens getting involved is really important. Now, let me ask you this: what is happening locally with this amendment now? So, if you tell us a little bit about your experience with the county and getting this amendment on the ballot here in Milwaukee County.
Well, we started with West Dallas because we knew that was not Shorewood. In other words, Shorewood is very Democratic. West Dallas voted for Walker for governor, 55%. So they're to the right of a lot of Milwaukee. So we thought if we could get a referendum there that, you know, the resolution passed by a good percentage, then that would tell people that this is really a nonpartisan issue. And we did. 70% voted to support it, and 87% of the people who voted on it. So, in other words, most people understood the resolution and what it meant, and were for it. So that was great. So we started there, and we used that to show people in this county board what could happen and what their constituents wanted. And I think that helped us to get the 14-4 majority, which we got on the 26th of July from them. Unfortunately, right now, the Abley, our county executive, wants to veto it because he says it's $19,000, which is what it costs. It's too expensive. Well, that does sound like a lot, and I kind of wonder about that number. But it's still, you know, we have a $1.2 billion budget, and I figured it out, and it's 1/60 millionth of the budget. So it's not really that expensive, is it?
It's kind of interesting because my first thought when you say that is, okay, who owns him? You know, it's like
he's a very wealthy man. He's a millionaire, and he ran a foundation before he became county executive. His dad is the 132nd richest man in the world, who owns Boston Scientific. So I don't think he really understands the importance of this, or maybe he doesn't want it on the ballot for some reason.
And he's a Democrat.
I don't know.
He ran as a Democrat.
Okay, he ran as a Democrat. I think there are a lot of people running as Democrats.
Well, that brings me
aren't
back
very
to
democratic. I mean, this is democratic, a referendum, right?
Right. Well, right.
With a small d. Yeah.
But it brings me back to West Dallas, which is interesting because West Dallas leaning more towards, you know, I guess a Republican base, being more conservative, maybe we put it that way. And getting this resolution passed kind of tells me it really becomes very bipartisan. And I'm thinking of all the groups from Code Pink to Ron Paul supporters are all in favor of this. So there's something that struck in this amendment that everybody says, yeah, this is common sense. You know, this is something that we all can agree upon. So I find that very interesting. Now, you had a meeting with the county exec, or with his office, and what happened there? What, you know, you want to tell us a little bit about that? Can you talk about that?
Sure, we can. We don't know for sure what we're going to do about this, but we did say, you know, we can pay for this. I mean, it's a big chunk of our IRA we're taking out. And
Your own money.
Yeah.
Wow.
To get this on the ballot in November.
Uh-huh.
We really want it in November.
Yeah.
And he has to sign it by August 20th if we get it, because of the problem with when the board meets again, which is not till after September 6th.
Ah.
September 6th is the 60th day before the election.
Yeah.
And so we have to have it signed by then.
Because they have to print everything.
And he doesn't have to sign it till the day before their next meeting. So if they call an earlier meeting, that would be great. But as far as I know, they haven't. So
is there some reason? I mean, of course, we're just speculating here. Why he wouldn't want to be behind this? Is it just the money? Is that his only concern? Is this
That's we actually on Friday. What happened was we got a contract from him asking us to, saying that we were going to pay for this, and the reason they weren't doing it was because of money. So
that was his reason. That was his only reason. So if you were to plop down the money, he would say, "Yeah, this is a go. This will be on the ballot in November."
Yeah, except that they aren't going to know how much the election is going to cost until after the election, November 6th. So we're supposed to pay up regardless by December 30th or 30. I don't know.
So if you pay this $19,000 and then after election it ends up costing them more or less, are you going to get a refund or are they going to charge you more?
Well, we haven't really talked about it to them. We talked about a lot of things, and Jim and I took the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU it's called.
Okay.
It's not really a contract, I guess, but it is a contract in a way because we both signed it. Anyway, we haven't talked about that yet. But I really am pretty uncomfortable with that part of it.
Well, let's talk about this a little. In all these other states, counties, cities, has there been a fee charged to people who want to get this amendment on the ballot?
As far as I know, and I've been talking to all the people in Move to Amend, including Mary Beth Gardam, who is a member of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, who has a committee that's been studying this for 17 years. She started a conversation with me, and then a lot of other people came in, and there's been some talk once in a while of that, but as far as I can see so far in the blogging in the last few days, well, I guess it's only been been a short time, but we've been talking about it because we knew we were going to pay for it. So it's been actually about 10 days that we've been talking about it, and nobody's actually had to pay.
So no one's had to pay to get this on. Across the country, they're putting this amendment on the ballot, and no one's being charged for this. But you are.
You know, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, Milwaukee County has a lot more money than West Dallas.
Yeah.
And West Dallas never brought up the issue of money. So it's pretty incongruous. It doesn't really fit.
Now,
in my mind.
Can well, this is just a little bit of the radical in me saying, what if a lot of people started calling his office and said, this is ridiculous, you can't charge these people their retirement.
They are.
And when it's, it's something that's so this important, I mean, can people call and...
I have the phone number.
Well, put that out there right now, and we'll make sure that it's also at the end. Give us the phone number
I'll
right
repeat
now.
it. It's 278-4211.
Okay.
278-4211.
And that's area code 414.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course.
And so it's for the county of Milwaukee, and his name again is
Chris Abele.
Chris Abele, and he's a county exec.
Right.
And that includes Tosa, that includes Milwaukee, that includes South Milwaukee, that includes is that also Shorewood? No.
Yes.
Yeah, Shorewood. All the way up, all the way up to Ozaki County, right there, and all the way as far south, even Oak Creek.
Right.
So all these people can call at his office and let him know that this has to be on there, and that he should be charging you at, what did you say, how much was the cost compared to the budget?
160 million.
116, I think.
60 million.
Okay, so that's good. Now, let's say, for instance, he ignores all that. Is there some way that people can donate? Or is there a Kickstarter program where maybe, you can have a certain amount of time to raise these funds, and then if they come through and you're not charged, you can just send them back, or if they, if you get enough, you'll be able to recoup some of your retirement.
I certainly think that's possible. Right now, we're looking at, what should we do with this MOU or Memorandum of Understanding, and what kind of implications are there, and is this going to be now the mode of operation, if you will, for bringing a referendum in the world of democracy with a small d, and are the people going to have to pay to vote on an issue?
It sounds to me, and of course I'm not a constitutional lawyer or a lawyer for the Constitution of Wisconsin, but it sounds to me that if you want this amendment, if you want an amendment, and maybe perhaps they can require a certain amount of signatures, some support, people, or as you showed in West Allis, these people were really for this. It sounds to me by asking the constituents, asking the citizens to pay for this is like a poll tax.
Exactly.
And that hits me as something
illegal.
That's totally illegal, right? Yeah.
But they passed it through corporate counsel, which are the lawyers for the county, and they said, yeah, we can do this. So
interesting.
It is like a poll tax.
Yeah, it is. Now, I'm wondering, too, if anyone's out there listening who happens to be an attorney, can look at this situation and say, well, these are citizens, this isn't a corporation, these are, people who have rights like everyone else, and should be able to, make their case and provide enough information that would... you got 14 people, right? Mm-hmm. Who agree that
14 out of 18.
This is a good idea.
Yeah.
And although I'm wondering about those 4 people who didn't think it was, but you have the background, and you've brought with you, at least a portfolio of, hey, we've done this, and this is a popular issue, and people are concerned about this. It's across the country. We've proved it to you in West Allis. Why would this not be an important issue for the county? So I'm encouraging people really to call the county exec, and we'll get to this. Actually, let's get to this now so people get a chance to write this down, and we'll repeat it at the end. You have a website, a Facebook page, a Twitter, email address. Can you give that to us now?
Sure.
So we can, hold on to that.
Our Facebook page is, just look up Move to Amend, and we're the first one, Move to Amend of Southeastern Wisconsin. There are about 3 that show up, and we're the first one. So you just type in Move to Amend, and you get us. With our website, it's sew-mta.org. I always want to say .com. Thank you, sweetie.
Say it again, one more time.
SEW for Southeast Wisconsin. Dash.
Oh, dash. Sorry. Let's
MTA Move to Amend.
Okay.
Southeast Wisconsin Move to Amend. So it's sew-mta.org.
There we go.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And do you have an email address or a phone number you want to give? Or
Yeah, sure. You can email me, marylaan, MARYLAAN. 2 A's, 1 N, N as in Nancy, and @yahoo.com. Yeah, sure. Anybody. Sure.
Okay, that's good. Now, I want to reiterate that at the end of the program, but before we do that, I want to ask you a couple questions about the future. The ramifications of this not moving forward, and what it will do if it does move forward. So this dichotomy between, people do nothing, and if we continue on the track that we're going, and the opposite of that, which is what happens if it does pass, what actually happens to the Constitution? What does this amendment do?
This is an advisory referendum.
Mary and I look at it, as well as some of the people that are actively involved, that if the resolution is put on and will be on the November 6th election, our work really starts. We need to inform and educate the voters of Milwaukee County, what's going on, because if we've gone so far as putting the amendment on the ballot, such as we did in West Dallas, how is the vote going to come out? Are we going to have a big majority? We hope 80%. We got 70% in West Dallas. And that was a Republican presidential primary election in West Dallas this past April 3rd.
That's right.
But, here we chose, and we want to have it on the presidential ballot because that's when most of the voters come out. And so that's a challenge to us. It's one thing to get it on the ballot, but it's another thing then to go out into the community. And that's really the intent of this, is to let the average voter, citizen, mom and pop, grandpa, grandma, I should say, realize what's happening to our country.
Yeah.
The big corporations are basically drying up small towns, their business community, they're just taking away and putting it in sometimes into foreign banks so that they don't have to pay taxes. And so it's very important that the people realize something is going on that they can actually participate in. Mary says that it's non-binding, but it also is something that people need to weigh in.
And also, referenda really influence our legislators. And they, some people don't want to hear it, and I wonder if that's how Abel is. He just doesn't want to hear it. But I don't know. I don't know why. It's a mystery to me. My thoughts on it are kind of negative, why he wouldn't do it.
Well, I would get that impression as well myself. However, on the other hand, there are a lot of people who don't understand an issue, and then they just think that's just one more thing on my plate I don't want to deal with.
Yeah,
maybe. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt at this point, because as time goes on, both of you are going to be available to talk about this issue, right?
Right.
So there's plenty of radio stations all over Wisconsin, right? And in the Milwaukee area, I think we're number 23. So there's a lot of stations available to talk about this topic, giving you a chance to voice it. And then maybe somebody will say, well, why is he against this, or why doesn't he like this?
So a big part of this is public education, even of our legislators.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, this really influences them, and if we get enough millions of people saying we want a constitutional amendment,
Right.
we really don't want a constitutional convention, we want to do it the other way, where you just have your legislators vote on it, 2/3 of them voted in to say that they'll consider it, and then in order to pass the referendum, which we should say what it is
Yeah.
at some point, 3/4 of them have to pass it for it to become an amendment. So that's how it goes. And if we get enough states, and we've got a lot, there are 137 municipalities who have passed this so far.
Wow.
So LA and New York, everybody knows about. But there are just a lot.
Yeah.
It's all over the country, and you hear about it zip, because when we won the thing in West Dallas, there was hardly anything in the paper at all. Nobody knew there was, and much less public education about it.
Yeah. You think that, here I'm a resident, right? I live here, and I didn't even know that it was in West Dallas. And I usually, keep my eye on the paper and, watch the blogs and, and I had heard about Move to Amend, and it just sort of like on the fringe, and I thought, well, okay, what is this about? And then when your name came up and I was told about this, I thought, oh, okay, now I want to dig a little deeper and find out some more about this. So, yes, public education's everything. And, of course, since this would render corporations useless, I guess.
No, they would be non-persons.
They would be non-persons.
And they're not persons. We can write.
Yeah.
We can develop laws and rights for them.
But that doesn't.
They don't have to be a person. These are inalienable rights inherent in us because we are human.
Yeah.
You know, the free speech and all of that. Now, they would still have free speech because everybody in the corporation is a person and they can talk about the corporation. Sure. They can say anything they want.
Yeah.
So they would still have free speech.
They would still have free speech, but they would lose what?
Well, if money isn't speech, they would lose the ability to secretly funnel money into elections. So you need both. You need corporations not being people and money not being speech.
I see. So well, they wouldn't like that very much, would they?
They don't seem to because we're getting no press.
Yeah, and that
Or radio coverage.
Yeah. So, and since most of the stations belong to these large corporate entities
that are making lots of money from this decision.
And this is another thing, that we're trying to do here at Riverwest Radio is to educate the community, saying you own these waves; they belong to you. Mm-hmm. They are your waves, and they're these big corporations pay us no rent. They pay us nothing for this. I mean, this is really incredible real estate. Yeah. And they pay us nothing. They give us nothing in return to fill the air with what it is they're buying or what it is they're selling to us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I had a friend say something the other day I just thought was a marvelous quote. He said that the mainstream media, the corporate mainstream media, won't tell you how to think, but they'll tell you what to think about.
Yeah.
And so when they keep certain issues on the front cover, on the front of their newspaper, on the front of their blogs, on the radio, they don't tell you everything else that's going on too that could be helpful to you as a citizen. So, our efforts here is to try and take some of that back to give, the average citizen here in at least River West the opportunity to, to voice their concerns, their thoughts, their creativity. And so, it just seems that the corporate media is kind of pushing down on us so that we think what it is they want us to think.
Yeah, and just to have this on the ballot would open people's eyes, even if they didn't hear anything we said before. Yeah. They would go, like a lot of people did in West Dallas who signed a petition, they would go, heck yes, a corporation isn't a person and money isn't speech. Who decided that? Yeah.
So now getting this word out in West Dallas, maybe you got lucky. Did you have to do much promotion? Did you have to do much education? What do you think got people in West Dallas? Did they just read it and say, oh yeah, this is common sense?
Most of the people that came up to me did, that I went up to. I would say 70 to 80% of them said, oh, well, that makes sense. And they didn't all know the words Citizens United as being the Supreme Court decision in January of 2010, but they knew that the Supreme Court had decided that a corporation was a person and money wasn't speech. Yeah. Or money was speech. Yeah. Oops. I know. I'm telling the truth.
That's okay.
So that was very interesting to me because these are hardworking people. They probably work 50, 60 hours a week at least. Yeah. And they had time to understand that. Yeah. So, I mean, we did some education. We did door hangers. We hung $1 million bills, fake $1 million bills on doors with the wording of the referendum on the back, and maybe I should read that now.
Yeah, please, read it, too.
Resolve the City of Milwaukee, Wisconsin calls for reclaiming democracy from the effects of undue influence by amending the United States Constitution to establish that 1, only human beings, not corporations, are entitled to constitutional rights, and 2, money is not speech, and therefore regulating political contributions and spending is not equivalent to limiting political speech.
Very good.
So
I think anybody who would read that and have even a third, fourth, fifth grade education would understand what's going on there. So this is, your presentation is very, very simple, and I like the, what is that, $1 million bill?
Yep.
With the Statue of Liberty on there. So if I see, $1 million bill, that gets my eye, and I know a lot of people are going to go, oh, what's this, $1 million? So maybe I can win something, or...
It's fun to hand out in a crowd, I'll tell you.
Because people look at this and they know it's funny money. They know that but you can't help, because we look at money so much in our lives. We're paying for things that, you kind of just naturally look at it and go, well, what does $1 million look like? And what's this
Now you
about? But you do stamp on there, it's a not legal tender, so. And you can clearly tell it's a photocopy, so.
Yeah.
But it has everything you need to know, and it was really designed quite well. Did you guys do this? Did you put this together? Very nice.
Jim pretty much did it.
Yeah.
Well, we had help in that, and the first lead-in questions, it says that if you believe when Abraham Lincoln said that our government is of the people, by the people, and for the people, that he meant human beings, and he did not mean corporations. And it goes on to say that if you believe that freedom of speech is to protect us against censorship, and it is not a guarantee that wealthy people and groups may spend as much money as they want to influence elections. So these are very simple thoughts.
Yeah.
And, there are times when I went up with $1 million bill to people and says, here, I'd like to buy your vote. It's an example of what's being done behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And that's how really the United States of America is being changed by corporate power.
Yeah.
It's the $1 million bills or less or even more that's influencing people who make laws that govern all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I see that, and not only is this a beautiful piece of work, and very clear in the back, but you're out there on the street approaching people, which is really wonderful. Now, West Dallas is a pretty good size area to cover. Is it just the two of you doing this?
Oh,
or?
no, we had a crew. We had a lot of people from grassroots South Shore come. We had a lot of people come from Milwaukee. We had a lot of people from West Dallas. We didn't really pay for advertising. We don't have a budget, which is why we're spending this $19,000. That money would be better spent on public education, really. Sure. But we just talked to people about the petition, and some people would argue with us, and that was fine. I mean, they were really engaged citizens, and that was very nice. So we that's how we did our publicity.
So a lot of this is really just being done by word of mouth,
right?
Yes.
Right.
Which is that works really well. Unfortunately, though, you should have the radio waves to broadcast this. And those aren't available, so we're working on that too. Now, in Milwaukee County, of course, this is huge, so you're going to need a lot more volunteers.
Yeah, we would love more volunteers.
Yeah. So
we want to do speaking and things like that too.
I encourage people to send you an email.
Yeah, marylaan@yahoo.com.
Yeah. And get involved in this, because this. And it's so needed. It may be too late, but it's, let's catch up. This is great. Now, you have the West Dallas, you approach the county. We're looking at the future here, what the ramifications are if we don't get this. If we do,
okay.
If this does pass, and we do get this amendment, and it
Here in
sweeps across
Milwaukee?
here in Milwaukee. Well, let's start with Milwaukee first. Let's start from the Smong and build up from Milwaukee. Once it happens in Milwaukee, then what?
Well, then we want to go to the state level. We're going to go all over the state and promote this and talk to people about it and what it means. Mark Pocan has written a resolution. He's a representative from Madison. But it only talks about money not being speech. So that's basically campaign finance reform.
Yeah.
If you want to change the power structure, which that's the problem, is the power structure. The people don't have any power anymore.
Yeah.
So then you have to talk about corporate personhood. The first part, only human beings, not corporations, are entitled to constitutional rights.
So let's see. You got this done in West Dallas. It's coming to Milwaukee County. Let's say it happens. Then you go to the state. Now you have one legislator there who's working just on the money aspect, but you want to educate the whole state to delineate between what is a person and what isn't, or what is a person. And let's say that you get the whole state of Wisconsin. And how many more states do you need to actually make it, get it on the legislative tables in the federal government?
6 states have passed money isn't speech already.
6 states have already done it.
Yeah. Only 1 state did the move to amend statement, which is money isn't speech and corporations aren't people.
Okay.
So I guess we need 49 more.
Well, I think once a couple states get it right, you'll see it sweep. Yeah, I can see states like Vermont, New Hampshire, Hawaii, Alaska.
Hawaii passed the money isn't speech.
Yeah, I'd see that Washington State, and then once you get a half dozen of those states, then California takes it, and then it just sweeps the nation.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about just getting this on the November ballot. How far do you see in the future before that we could get it on all the states, or get it to
the
Congress?
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, the 18-year-old voting rights amendment only took 6 months. This is going to probably take longer.
Yeah.
This may take 2 years. It may take 10 years.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep working on it because it's essential to our democracy. Because what's happening is if a political person, a politician, doesn't kowtow, then they get the negative ads against them, and who knows where they're coming from, right? Because it's secret money. They don't have to declare. So they will be out, just like Russ Feingold was.
Yeah, I saw that happen. You saw that coming down. Now, our culture today is surrounded by a lot of celebrities. Have there been any celebrities that have hopped on and helped push this forward? And have you talked to any, have you, put your eye on a few people that you'd like to get, to promote this? What about the Green Party? How do they feel about this?
Oh, they're for it, yeah. As a matter of fact, Jill Stein stayed at our house when she was here. She's running for president for the Greens, and at our house, and she was very positive about it.
Right.
Okay, so there's one political party that is supporting this. What about the Democrats? Have you talked to any of the leaders in the Democratic Party?
Yeah, sure. And actually, it's on their platform.
Aha. Okay, so it's on that. What about the
Even
Republicans?
though it's nonpartisan. I don't know any Republicans.
Okay.
That's a dumb answer, but it's true. And we keep talking about reaching out to them because we had people from the Tea Party sign our petition.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really strong issue on the Ron Paul side. The Libertarians are really for this. They want that out. They believe that corporations are not human beings. That I know. So you got Democrats, you got Greens, you got probably the Libertarians are there. It's just trying to find Republicans somewhere.
Actually, in a poll, 68% of Republicans agreed that corporations aren't people and money isn't speech.
Well, it was kind of interesting because when you go back to 2008, and they passed TARP, there were more Republicans who signed on against TARP than Democrats. So, so this fiscally conservative Republican would probably find this more appealing than, maybe more moderates who, I had a difficult time convincing the our congressional representative here to sign on a bill to audit the Fed. We'd like that transparency. It would be nice to see who's getting all this money. But she voted against that bill, which I thought was really stunning. Yeah, I know. So, and that's coming from a Democrat. right?
Yeah.
So, it makes you wonder where the influence is and why people reason the way that they reason. But I think with this particular bill, this seems to it makes sense to a lot of people. They feel this almost in a rage that it shouldn't be happening, and I think maybe that's a uniting force in a way, to bring all the sides together and focusing on the issues that do bring us together, because it seems the media is very divisive and keeps trying to divide us. They'll find these on the edge issues or these fringe issues that make us argue, like whether or not you're pro-life or pro-choice. I don't know if you could ever resolve that. But why is that standing out more than things that really unite us?
Yeah, conflict makes a story, they think.
Yeah. What do they say? If it bleeds, it leads, right?
Yeah.
So they play on that, and that's the corporate media looking to get ad revenue, right?
Right.
Well, I think it's also, they like to harp on the emotionally based kinds of issues.
Yeah.
And so, when you talk about necessarily money is speech, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Now, maybe when you talk about is a corporation a person, maybe that might hit home better. When we knocked on doors in West Dallas, we didn't have a long discussion. People would say, "Oh yeah, a corporation is not a person," or "I don't want money to be speech." And so it's very simple. I mean, you knock on the door, and after 30 seconds, most people would sign the petition.
Yeah.
Especially in West Dallas, they would ask us, well, what about unions? Shouldn't unions not be able to give money? And we informed them, and then they signed that most unions are incorporated.
So they are corporations.
They are incorporated.
And the unions over the at least the past 30 years haven't been very helpful.
No.
They've declined quite a bit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of controversy even within union members about how the unions conduct business. So there's some reform that needs to be done there as well. This is exciting because this is I think it's a movement that not only is sweeping the nation, it's doing it without any press, very, very little.
Right.
And that's a good thing. And in a sense, maybe it's even better because it makes it stronger.
Sort of like the women's movement.
Yes.
All they talked about was burning bras, which never happened, and a bunch of women hating and all of that sort of thing, like you were talking about, the conflict.
Yes.
But it changed our lives. It changed my life.
Yeah.
I'm a PA. I wouldn't have been allowed in PA school. They only picked 3 women out of 13 people they picked. Only 3 were women, and that was the minimum to get the federal money.
Wow.
So, and of course, we all had really good grades, and So
I guess that just goes to show everyone that doing your civic duty, you have to remain vigilant, always vigilant, because just if you think about, from the 60s to the 70s, 80s, the last 30 years, little by little by little by little, we're losing our civil liberties.
Yeah.
We're losing, our bank accounts are going empty. Inflation is a new tax. And we have these endless wars. Somebody pointed out to me the other day, World War II didn't last, and Vietnam didn't last as long as this conflict. I don't know if it's a conflict or a war anymore in Afghanistan.
It's an occupation, really.
Well, and yet then we find ourselves in Libya, and then we find ourselves in, now we're in Uganda, in Yemen, and we're funneling money to the Syrian rebels, and then we find that there's Al Qaeda that we're actually funding, which is who are fighting in Pakistan, and so
this relates to lobbyists, doesn't it? Because
it does.
The peaceful people, don't really have a strong lobby. We don't have a lot of money, but Blackwater, which is now called ZXE.
Yeah, I think they changed that name again.
And then
too.
they changed that name again too, because they don't want anybody to know who they are, because they're so despicable. And they're lobbying.
Yeah.
And that's the military-industrial complex that is really old. Boeing and all these corporations.
Lockheed Martin, right?
Yeah, I mean, they all have more money than we the people, and we've got to stop this lobbying.
Yeah.
And that's what this amendment would do.
Well, I'm so glad that both of you were able to come in today. I want to just have you reiterate again the website.
Okay, it's SEW for Southeast Wisconsin dash MTA, movetoamend.org.
Okay, and your email address again?
MARYLAAN at yahoo.com.
Okay. And I want to thank my guests, Mary Laan and Jim Ito, for joining me today on 3 Words. It's so wonderful, really, to speak to folks who are doing and working to create a better future for our country.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope to speak to you both again in the future and follow the progress of the movement as we get closer to the election. So I'd like to invite you back again and
Great.
keep in touch so we can find out what's going on. And so I'm asking my listeners, please get in touch with Mary and Jim, get involved. You have to get involved just so you can get one of these $1 million bills. They're really wonderful.
We'll pay you.
Yeah. Who knows? You know, this might be worth more than the stuff in our pockets right now, our wallets, pretty soon. So asking people spread the word of our efforts to bring enlightened voices and topics that affect your life and the community, the nation, and the world. Our shows are archived for your convenience at riverwestradio.com and on youtube.com at 3 Words Radio, along with our website, 3wordsradio.org. We hope you will listen and continue to support your public community radio waves. Remember, you own them. Support and take good care. This is Liza Brooks. Thank you for listening.
That's all.